Hello, my dear friends. How have you been? What have we been reading lately? If I'm not mistaken, it should already be fall in the northern hemisphere, and in the southern hemisphere, it should already be welcoming spring. Two very beautiful, transient seasons, and I'm in Bangkok dealing with the weather right now. It's actually quite nice. It's been cool. It's a bit cloudy today, but the weather is not that scorching hot, which for us is already a blessing. But how have you been? Today's video was only supposed to be about my books from, what month is it? From September, but I thought I'd do a little chat with you guys just to start. Actually, I woke up this morning and I was like, do I even want to do this reading wrap up? Do people even care? And then I thought to myself, hey, I care. I like yapping about my books, and if anything, I will have these videos to look back on about books that I read at a time in my life. So we are here. And then I went in front of the camera and I was like, you know what? I want to yap. And the thing is, I realized it's hard to yap because life has been quite crazy lately. It started maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And I can say what it is, but I'll keep it to myself for now. But my life's going to change quite a bit. Maybe by the end of this year. And I'm very, very excited about it. Also very, very nervous. And I generally cannot move in silence. Most of my friends already know what this is about. But I'm trying to keep this for myself for now. But that also means life is getting very busy. I have to do a lot of planning and just... I was going to say life takes up so much time in my life, but that's the best way I can put it. But the good thing is I've still been reading. I've still been able to really keep that habit quite strong. I've still been able to see my friends. I've still been able to work out. But doing my Bookstagram posts and booktube videos, I have been better in September compared to July, August, but sometimes it takes a backseat because sometimes I just want to rot, although I'm trying to balance it a bit better now. But in the coming maybe 2 to 3 months, I really want to be able to balance everything, but we'll see how that goes. Because guys, I really do love this space and it brings me so much joy. It brings me so much purpose, and gosh, I'm being so sappy here. One of my favorite decisions I've ever made was really this book platform that I've built, and to be able to connect with people in the same space has just been amazing. So I really want this to still be within my list of priorities, but we'll see how life goes. And the moment I can share, you best believe there will be a booktube video on it, because you guys will be surprised, I think. But yes, that's life. Work's been busy. Books have been nice. I'm looking at my September reads. Some really good ones. Some actually no, not a not bad reading month. It's only 5 books, but they're pretty okay. It's a strong average, I would say. And this October, I will be visiting Manila for 2 weeks. I also have to just like plan out my life. It's my annual visit to see family and to also see my friends, but it's also only 2 weeks, so I really need to be able to pack everything in and make time for everyone. Generally, Manila is really not a city that I look forward to visiting just because of the city itself. I really, really love seeing my family and my friends, but Manila and I just we just don't have a good relationship, so not really looking forward to that much, the place itself. But what keeps me going is I'll be able to see my friends and my family who I haven't seen in a year. I literally sat down and I decided to yap, so if that was messy. But actually, I was thinking before I talk about my September reads, I will talk about my current read. It is a spooky season. If you haven't watched my last video, what are you doing? This is my first read for October. It is The Other by Thomas Tryon. Only 25 pages in, and I'm still feeling it out. I'm really scared that I don't vibe with the writing style. And I realized as I was reading this on the train yesterday is that I'm not really in the right headspace because life's been crazy, but also not in the right... My reading style doesn't fit horror. I read in transit. I read when I'm walking. Maybe don't follow that. I read when I'm outside, when I'm at a cafe. I never read at home. I can never read at home. I always fall asleep. I always get distracted. But I think horror as a genre really fits that isolating ambiance of being just like by yourself. You're at home. It's nighttime. Or just reading at night. Maybe that's what I'll try to do. But for now, it's fine. I mean, 25 pages, I can't really say anything, so I'm not really giving a review, but just my first thoughts. The writing style is not matching so far, but I want to give it a proper try. I have a couple of books this month that I really want to read, so I want to make good progress with this. Maybe today, tomorrow, we'll see. I will give a decision if I will keep continuing it. But the premise sounds interesting. It's about two kids who are near identical, but could not be any more different. And then something happens. Well, duh, it's a horror book. And yeah, I stopped reading the blurb after that. Now it's just setting up the stage, really trying to land you the difference between the twins. But other than that, it's still very, very early stages. That is The Other by Thomas Trion. Now let us go to my September reads, but I'll start with my most recent one, just because, and I'll work backwards from there, because the first book I read in September is actually my favorite. So first we have About Ed by Robert Gluck. I started and finished this on the same day, which is crazy to me because the book before this took me 2 weeks and it's same length. I have been meaning to read this since I think June. Yes. I wanted to read this for Pride Month. I was hearing great things about it. I heard about the experimental writing, Robert Gluck's writing style, and just it's like reading something that you shouldn't be reading in terms of how intimate it can get and how private it can get. But I read maybe 5 grief books in a row back in between May and June, and I told myself, maybe I need a break. Maybe I need to give my wee little heart some breathing room. So we took a break, and the thing is, this is a queer book that took place, or at least parts of it took place during the AIDS epidemic, specifically in San Francisco in the US. And this would have been great for Pride Month, but I think I'm glad I waited. I don't think I emotionally could have handled this back then. But this is About Ed by Robert Gluck. This is a memoir. And I found out after reading this book that this is part of the new narrative writing, which is a movement / writing style co-founded by Robert Gluck that was really led by the LGBT community. It takes on that experimental writing that blends time, place, memory, and really puts the author as part of the book itself and doesn't shy away from shame and vulnerability. And I think that ever-shifting nature of this book made it an intriguing read for me. Because this book is about Ed, actually the title. Ed is the former lover, but eventually lifelong friend of our author Robert Gluck. And this basically narrates their life together. But not only that, it also shows how Bob / Robert himself was navigating all of these things happening at a very difficult time for queer people. And just the intimacy that I was saying earlier really makes this book shine. I haven't finished the book in one sitting in a long while, so that really is a testament to at least my personal reading experience with this book, because the way Robert is able to talk about Ed, to take Ed's own words through his dream journal and build a story and a beautiful narrative of his life out of it is actually beautiful. I mean, look at that photo. If I have any queer followers who are watching this video, this is also, again, as I said, taking place during the AIDS epidemic. So it does get quite difficult, especially seeing what the community went through, and in parts of the world still going through, not just on the way we're treated in the society, but also the actual human lives that were lost. And personally, just reading about those can really take an emotional toll, especially when it's so well written, because it really just gets you so much more emotionally invested. But I'm really, really glad I read this. I did find the first half a lot stronger than the second half. I do recommend that you read it. And the last 20-30 pages of this book ends in Ed's own words from his dream journal, and it was fantastic, exhilarating. It is a heartbreaking book, difficult read, but also filled with so much hope. There's a way that Robert Gluck writes with so much tenderness and intimacy, but also having a sense of detachment. Because I was never outright like bawling or sad or depressed from reading this book, but it's just like an ever-present sadness that is happening, that you're feeling. But yes, that is About Ed by Robert Gluck. That was a long yap. Next we have James by Percival Everett, which is the book I was talking about that took me 2 weeks to read, which is weird because this is such a readable book. The way Percival Everett is able to write such an engaging story, the way he paces, the language that he uses, it's simple and it's straightforward. But again, life just been... Sometimes I just don't have the time or headspace to read, and this became the victim of it. So, James by Percival Everett is the retelling of The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I have never read The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. I would like to think I'm well-read, but not in the Western lens, especially in American literature. It's generally the space and literature that doesn't interest me as much personally. I don't know. So I've never read it. I don't think I'll ever read it just because there's millions and billions of books in the world and it didn't really catch my attention. But Percival Everett is an author that I have been meaning to read for a very long time. I hear about his humor, his snappiness, his style of writing. I've been wanting to read specifically The Trees, but when this won the National Book Award, or was it the Pulitzer, or both, it got me intrigued. And then a good friend of mine who I trust with my life told me to give it a try. It would be a nice, what do you call this? Opening experience with Percival Everett. I just went and bought it, and it called me. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that's how I pick my books. Sometimes I'm just at home, and I stand up, I'm like, James, are you calling me? And that's what happened with James. I was going on a trip, and it was looking at me and told me to start reading it. And you know what? It was actually really, really great. I cannot speak on the retelling side, but as a standalone book, as someone who has never read The Huckleberry Finn, who only knows the bare bones backdrop of it, of a slave escaping and his good friend Huckleberry, it was a fantastic read. The way Percival Everett gave Jim a voice, the slave a voice in this book, the way he fleshed it out so beautifully, the way he tackles difficult topics, and the way it flows throughout the story is just incredible. The thing is, though, I don't know why people were saying this is humorous and funny. Maybe there's some sarcasm and, I don't know, dark humor, but just in general, not very funny. At the start, a little bit, but it's not what I was expecting, which is totally fine with me because it is an incredible book. It just was a mental disconnect for me while I was reading this. And it does ask very important questions, and it's able to bring something that was happening way, way back then, still relevant to today, and ask us a question of how were these things that were happening, and by things I mean slavery, have had ripple effects to today's society, and why you can kind of see parallels. Obviously, he's not giving it to you straight because it's set back then, but if you just use your brain a little, it just wants to give you a headache about where the world is at today. And it's not a very nice thought, but it's a good reminder that the world has gone so far, but we have very, very far to go. And the fact that this was a reality back then gives me a proper headache. But yes, that is James by Percival Everett. Very readable, great storytelling. The characters are so fleshed out. Their issues, their pains were so well written. The writing is simple and straightforward, which personally is not my favorite style of writing. You get to really focus on the story for this one, which is absolutely great, especially if that's what you prefer. That's maybe what held me back from giving it a higher rating, but ultimately, very glad I read it. And All the more, I don't think I'll end up reading The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Unless some of you convince me, but probably not. Next, we have Intimacies by Katie Kitamura. I read this over the beach because I didn't have work and I got to really focus, and my God, so good. I didn't really know what this was about. I just have a friend here in Bangkok who told me that Katie Kitamura is one of their favorite authors, especially Intimacies. And my friend's a journalist, and I found out this is about a interpreter. Not the same, but you deal with language, you deal with words, and the hype is real. The hype is real. Intimacies by Katie Kitamura is about an interpreter who gets stationed in The Hague, where they deal with a lot of international crimes, the most heinous, most vile crimes that human beings have ever dealt with, but especially on an international lens. And you see this person trying to navigate life in a new city while also navigating her work in a job that becomes very, very intimate. I had to. The way Katie Kitamura is able to write into the title, the intimacies, the way it really is ever present as you're reading the whole book, as she's going through her daily life, when she talks to people, when she does her job, when she interprets for criminals, when she interprets for different people. You sense that intimacy that Katie Kitamura is talking about. The way the minds work and are able to have conversations in the context of her job, where she's interpreting for a person whose language is not well known. And in that very room, they're basically talking to each other. When she goes through her daily life and she's talking to her friends and she makes observations, she makes you feel like you are invading into something that's a lot more private than you should be exposed to. I don't know, it's just such an observant book. I think that's the best way I can put it. If I say the way one more time, I'm going to end this vlog. But as someone who loves languages, who loves words, who really do believe that words are so powerful as a medium to communicate, she really captures it so well. It becomes very tense and just captivating and so good. I highly recommend you guys read this. I'm still thinking about, what's the book? Audition, her other book. I've heard good things about it too. It's nominated for the National Book Award, if I'm not mistaken. But I haven't found a copy here in Bangkok yet, so I'll save that for another time. But at least for Intimacies, brilliant. There is so much depth hidden here. The language is also simple, but it is beautiful. So as someone who loves good prose, beautiful writing, it worked so beautifully for me. This next one breaks my heart to tell you guys, because I really thought this would be one of my 5 stars of the month. And I've been wanting to read this author for a very long time. And this will not be my only attempt to read their works, but Virginia Woolf's The Lighthouse. Guys, I really wanted to love this. When I love stream of consciousness, I'm obsessed with it. Case in point, Swan's Way by Marcel Proust, one of the best books I have ever read in my life. And they are both modernist writers. So, and I think I haven't read much modernist writers. I think it's only Marcel Proust. But the 3 famous ones would be Proust, Woolf, and James Joyce. James Joyce, I will have to wait for a very long time. I will need to muster up the courage to read his books. But Virginia Woolf, I really was postponing it for a very long time just because I was slightly intimidated, but I really did think I was going to love it. I don't think The Lighthouse was the best first book for me. It became too abstract, and the way the stream of consciousness flowed throughout the book became too hard for me to catch up with. It reminds me of Chinatown by Tuan, a stream of consciousness book that I read a few years back that I didn't really love, but I really still recommend to people. I just got too confused from the book, and that's a skill issue. Again, I recognize that. This, I was able to follow most of the book, but the mental effort it took me to really just stay focused became a bit too difficult. The language was beautiful, very interesting. It's actually quite unique in terms of my reading experiences and the other books that I've read in the past, but not enough to really salvage the book for me. A friend has told me that maybe Mrs. Dalloway or Orlando would be better first books for Virginia Woolf, so maybe I'll try that next, but I might need a little space, and I will really do my best to give this a reread in the future. Maybe I just wasn't in the right headspace, and as a mood reader, that really is a big factor for me in terms of my attention span and focus, because I really do have a horrible attention span. For someone who reads, reading is the only time in my day where I really get to focus, so but even then I still need to battle my own brain. So yeah. And last but not least, the best book I read this September. And I'm still deciding, it's at 4.75. I'm still deciding if it's a 5-star or a 4.5, but that's a chunky one. That is 666 pages. Canals Guard, why would you make that the number of pages? Anyway, my friend bought me the first 2 books of the My Struggle series of Canals Guard, an author that I've been wanting to read for a very, very long time, but it's 6-7 books, I believe, and I've just been quite intimidated to read it, so I told myself, you know what, let's start with something else. The Morning Star, which I then found out is not a standalone book, but I'm totally fine with because I am obsessed. I don't know what it is with these Norwegian authors, but they get me every time. First Fosse, next Lavrensky, now Canals Guard. Bro, but heavy on Fosse and Canals Guard because the way they write the mundane, the way they observe normal people living their everyday lives and make you care, make you intrigued, make you curious, make you want to read more. Mad respect. Fosse's septology is a lot more quiet, a lot more meditative, repetitive. This one is a lot more observant. This is a lot also quiet, but there is a somewhat of a story here. Things are happening. It's not all just thoughts, pure vibes. And that really got to me. The way the story creeps up on you, the way Canals Guard will just make you keep on reading is... It's like going through the mundane everyday life and then inserting those philosophical thoughts and just random musings that normal human beings will have. Fantastic. These Scandinavian authors love to think. They have too much time on their hands, guys. How do I even start with this book? It is about multiple characters. It's another thing. I usually don't like books with like multiple POVs, constantly shifting. It's like, bro, make up your mind. I loved it here. I was engaged. I was obsessed. I was waiting for each narrative to continue moving. Also, there was a comb inside. But The Morning Star is about town in southern Norway. People living their lives, multiple different characters, multiple different POVs, and sometimes their lives intersect. But the one thing that is the overarching thing that happens to all of their lives is they notice a big bright star in the sky. And strange things start happening. But to them, it's interesting for maybe a few hours and then life goes on. Strange things happen in their life and things get quite strange. But we're the only ones, us as the readers, who can see everything happening and every single POV and every single story are starting to realize, wait, does the Morning Star have anything to do with it? Shocking. That's the title. But to them, interesting star. Oh shoot, what is happening with my life? No connection, no nothing. And it's very interesting to observe. Because it also makes you wonder about your real life, the things that we just get so used to right away. And I think Canals Guard has that talent of balancing that tension, balancing those narratives and many things happening at once while also delivering you that depth and just beautiful writing. Right before I finish this, I already bought the second book, so that should tell you everything about how much I loved The Morning Star by Canals Guard, and easily my favorite book of September. It's still 4.75. I'm waiting for it to age and see how well how much I really like it, but it's leaning closer to a 5-star than a 4.5. But for now, we'll keep it at 4.75. But there you have it. That is every single book I read in September. Guys, I keep forgetting the day. It's October 1. It's currently, I believe it's 7 a.m. I have work today, so I'm doing a quick filming right now. Wow. Time flies, huh? I hope you guys are having a beautiful start to your October. And I hope you guys read good books. I hope you guys read amazing books this month. Get ready. I will have to do some work, go to a cafe. I'll see you back at your spot.